Stéphanie from Paris, Paola from Milano, Christophe from Grenoble. Hello, Marius. Hello, Mélie. Please tell us in the chat where you are from. Hello, Claire. Usual suspect of the NextGen net. We will begin in a few seconds. Anne from Montréal. Bonjour le Québec. Hi Myriam from Toulouse.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you? Eve from London. Hello. Juliana from the UK, Ireland. Marius from Poland, Warsaw. Hello. Hello Axel.
Salut.
So this session will be in English. Hello, Claire. Hello, Caroline. Hello, Hassan. Hello Michael. Hello Ludovic.
Salut.
Merci d'être là. Sympa. Salut.
Bonne musique, tu as chez NextGen.
Need this one. Need this playlist. Hello, André. Welcome to everyone. Mélie from Istanbul, Turkey. Hassan from Dublin, Ireland. You can put your location in the chat. We wait a few minutes before the beginning of the session with Anne-Claire Berg. Melanie from Canada. Katie from Barcelona. Paula, UK. Wow. A very international session. That's great. So this time, Suzanne Ebischer, you know her, is in a session for the Swiss Parliament. So Millie and myself will manage this session with Anne-Claire. We will begin very soon. Okay, thank you, Millie, for this great music. A few people are joining continuously, so I propose we begin because you're on time, and that's perfect. That's what we like at the NextGen Enterprise Net. Thank you so much for joining this session around Anne-Claire Berg. I'm particularly pleased to welcome you, Anne-Claire. You're a truly engaged and authentic person, and we like this kind of profile here. Especially there is no bullshit on the NextGen Enterprise Net sessions. Everything is should be authentic, direct, and we will have a direct conversation with everyone here, present here. Thank you so much for being connected to this session. So many people from over the world. Anne-Claire, I want to introduce you in a few seconds, but just before that, I want to thank our partners, Fabric team, with Michael. If you want to say a word, Michael, or Axel, I don't mind.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it's really nice to be here. I'm looking forward to hear from Anne-Claire. We are very shortly a company, and what we do is help organizations, companies doing the next steps towards functioning as a living organization or a more agile organization.
Thank you.
We're happy to partner with you guys.
Thank you very much, Michael. Holy Spirit is among us also with different representatives, and especially Millie. Holy Spirit is a software to support self-organization and self-management. And I'm particularly pleased to have among us Ludovic Cinquin. He was he's a huge supporter of the NextGen Enterprise Summit and the CEO of his great company. Ludovic, you would like to say a word?
No, I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have done a great session with you. You can find all our session of the NextGen Net on YouTube, and also we publish a paper, an article in French and translated in English. And Octo Technology was a great case of study of inspirational behavior and management. And so we hope the same today with Anne-Claire Berg, your VP Culture and Engagement at Danone. As you well know, we explore new ways of work, the future of leadership and distributed governance here at the NextGen Net. I'm particularly pleased to have you. You are a lawyer and a journalist, and you began your career in New York at King & Spalding. And for 6 years, you worked on intellectual property cases and forged a conviction that beyond growth and profitability and net result, brands must convey values. That's definitely our thoughts at the NextGen Enterprise Net. You then joined an entrepreneurial adventure in Luxembourg setting up a television channel, and wishing to continue investing models that bring economic value and drive societal change. You then joined Danone in Paris, then in London as General Secretary UK and Ireland. And there you put into practice Danone's mission to bring health through education by setting up educational programs with schools, and developed a volunteer strategy to engage employees. So that's very interesting. And among your verbatims, here are some I like very much. You said, for example, that companies are the new universities for lifelong learners, the new forum for engaged citizens, the new communities for people who want to create new futures together, all behind one common mission. And that fits very well with a career of learning, because when you quit the school, you know something that is very ephemeral. Another great one is trust is the one asset that companies need to bet on. It unleashes talents, innovation, and growth. And without trust, economic success and social progress can't happen. And concerning the NextGen Enterprise Summit we prepared together, you say the NextGen Enterprise calls for curiosity, creative thinking, and collaboration. It's about harnessing the diversity within each company to drive sustainable change. Our differences will make the difference. And the last for now, companies need to rethink their models to make freedom part of the equation. Companies are the new frontiers. We are completely convinced about it. Thank you for these precious quotes. So Anne-Claire, to begin with your talk, could you please share with us this journey you are on at Danone to make every employee a co-owner of your future as a company?
Hello everyone, thanks Luc for the introduction and the quotes. I'm not used to being quoted like this, so very humbling. So thrilled to be with you all today. But we're grateful to see some of my HR colleagues unknown joining us as well. This is our common journey, so I'm going to share. So it's a privilege to have you online as well. So when Luc, you offered me to join this event together, I said yes, because I'm a big believer of experience sharing with like-minded peers. I think the journey we're all on, which is a challenging one, and I've listened to some of the previous participants and their own journeys that I found super inspiring. I mean, those journeys call for support networks. You need support networks to transform, and this group is definitely one that is like-minded. So thank you for joining today, and again, thank you for connecting us all together. Because I believe that at the end, this is what managerial innovation and participative governance is all about in a very simple way. In a way, it's rethinking the way we connect people, rethink the way we make the system better from the inside. And this is why it's tricky. And this is why we need the people like you on that journey. So let me maybe just start on that, on systems. I know each of you have one way or the other, based on what Luc shared with me, some kind of ongoing project, some kind of plan when you're trying to change the world we operate in by influencing, by using new levers, by thinking differently. And when Luc shared with you earlier that I have this double background of being a lawyer and a journalist, let me just reflect 2 seconds on that. The reason why I chose those two paths that are not super usual is because I'm a big believer that you need to impact the rules, that you need to be within the system, know enough about the system to challenge them and make it better. So for me, law is all about that. You operate in a set of rules, and the rules need to evolve as well as the society evolves, and that's the beauty of it and the complexity of it. Journalism in a way as well, and I think more than ever with everything that's happening right now in our different systems, political systems, economic systems, company systems. Transparency and the role of information is very core as well. So basically, for me, change and transformation only happens if you're deep down into the system. And this is what I want to share mostly with you today. So whether, I think we've been progressing a lot in many ways in our different across, history in terms of opening up systems and trying to have more voices impacting, whether it's through political system like democracies, whether it is actually through women empowerment and the fact that women got a voice at one point, and we need to continue pushing for that minorities need to have a stronger voice. This is always about opening up the system so that it's richer. Interestingly, when I started reflecting on that, I thought companies were late. I believe that basically companies are huge systems. We've seen more and more companies even becoming bigger than states when you think about it. And yet companies still operate in a very traditional way. And I don't know each of you, so I don't know if you more like on the entrepreneurial mode, if you're in smaller type of companies, bigger companies, but obviously the bigger companies, the more traditional in general, and I characterize. And I believe there is a huge, huge space to actually embrace the power of companies, the fact that they are big systems that have a big impact, and that by removing this thinking about boxes and walls and silos and even roles and responsibilities sometimes, and saying, oh, this is not my problem, this is somewhere else, we can so much do good within companies and move mountains, actually. COVID, from that standpoint, has been an accelerator, in my view. It has opened new avenues, but we have acted as a reaction. We've all been in reactive mode, and we had to. That's what evolution calls for. We had to adapt. But now, after the adaptation mode, I think it comes for a time where we need to evolve. We need to evolve. We need to change a little bit deeply the system. And this is very much what I believe that this group and the NextGen Summit that is coming up is going to be so excited about. So let me now talk a little bit about the journey we're on at Danone. Our strong belief at Danone is that companies exist because they serve needs. A company doesn't have any reason to make money at the end of the day if what it produces or the services it provides bring no interest, no value to anyone. And therefore, the name of the game is really to serve people needs, and as you serve people needs, to create this competitive edge that will make you actually win. And this is what we've been trying to do for many years, more than 100 years at Danone, to bring health through food to as many people as possible. We have products that you may have in your fridge, or if you have babies on your cupboard. But this is very much what drives us. And back in the 70s, our CEO at that time, Antoine Riboud, was very clear. Economic success goes hand in hand with social progress. And this is still very much within our company and our culture what drives us. But how do we now, 50 years later, embrace this kind of vision and make sure that, again, we impact the system? It's not only the strategy that needs to be economic and socially connected. It's not only the ways of working in a way that need to drive this. It's very much the way we operate deep down in the motor of the car that we need to tweak things. So at Danone, we're 100,000 people, so it's a lot of people, which is why it's super exciting. And we're spread roughly across 60 countries. So we made a very conscious choice back years ago that we wanted to remain very local. Again, because we believe that to serve people needs, you need to be at the heart of their needs, and therefore you need to be where they live, where they eat, where they are convinced about the choices they need to make. And this is a big asset. So we have this diversity of profile, this diversity locally of people that are basically agents on the ground, obviously working for Danone, but obviously as well being totally ingrained into the ecosystem and being able to connect the external and the internal world. And so that's why 3 years ago, we've decided to call out the fact that we have these amazing people within Danone and to entrust them to create new futures by impacting the system, by enabling them through tweaking the system, and I'll come back to that, to impact local and global plans. So if I go back to the journey we've been on, 3 years ago, we announced our vision, One Planet, One Health. Basically, we called out the fact that the food system, as it's been going on for years, the big food was broken. That people wanted to reconnect with their food, wanted to know again where their food was coming from. We're looking at the labels. I mean, that was 3 years ago. It sounds like ages ago now, but at that time, it was really what we call food revolutions. People reconnecting with the why of the food experience. Why do I eat? What's behind all this, and how do we impact all around me as I choose this? So basically, we called out the fact that we believe that the health of the people and the planets were strongly interconnected, and that we were embarking through our One Planet, One Health journey on a way to bring healthier choices up, and that would call for some changes, that we need to rethink our products, we need to rethink the way we operate, our footprint, our operations, our supply chain systems, our packaging, our nutrition and ingredients. And we believe that we needed to ask first our people to guide us in this journey. And this is how our program, One Person, One Voice, One Share, came to life. So we decided to basically build a way to make sure that everyone within the company could have a voice and make the system better. Not only do the job that they paid for every month, every 2 weeks, every day, every hour, saying, okay, that's fine. But actually, if you join this company, it's because you believe in the mission behind. You believe that you can achieve greater by joining forces with your colleagues. So what if we give you a way to push with your voice where, in a way, it hurts, to bring your convictions to the table with your leadership team, whatever level you're in, whether you're a first-line owner, a manager, a director, doesn't matter. In a way, this is, and I was reflecting on that and listening to some of your past events, this is not even managerial innovation in a way. For me, it's about human innovation. It's one that calls for people convictions to help us impact. How do you give the ability to speak up, to call for more impact, to challenge the system, and at the end, to share similar convictions with other people within your business or in other business across the world, and therefore really create this sense of unity. So I won't give you the perfect recipe, and I don't think there is, because when I speak with other companies, sometimes they tell me, "Oh, give us the blueprint," and in a kind of consulting group type of mindset, we'll just use the blueprints and try and test. And I said, no, we developed this program because it was right for Danone. Every company will, have to go through its own journey and connect its cultural assets, its people, footprint, and convictions with the system. So at Danone, how did we do that? So for the past 3 years, we've created a system that runs on an annual basis and basically connect your convictions and your awareness of what is at stake with your voice, with the impact, and with kind of a walk the talk. So our first big asset is that we believe that we need to reinforce the capacity of people to have a really deep understanding of what they can influence and what is at stake, and therefore build the critical thinking. When you talk about the skills of the future, more and more people recognize, I believe, the fact that in the future, one of the strongest assets that companies want is people that have critical thinking, people that can call out the system, can call out improvements, can call out without being asked that there is maybe a different way to do things in a more simple, in a more powerful, in a more purposeful way. And this is, to be frank, why engagement is so key. So I'm privileged to spearhead our culture and engagement task force. And we picked those names on purpose. Culture, because at the end, this is what happens deep down. This is what happens when nobody looks. This is your behaviors day after day. This is your DNA. Engagement, because that's where actions come from. Engagement is something that for a long time was used much more in a military kind of, centuries ago. You were engaging behind a cause. You were committing to something that wasn't easy. And in English, by the way, engagement is still kind of the first step towards getting married. So it's still this thinking about, oh, engagement is kind of a big thing I need to have in mind because it's going to get really serious down the line. And so when more and more people call about activism, I believe this is what really engagement means, at least at Danone, is that if I'm engaged, I'm going to want things to be different. And I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to join forces with others. And this is, in a way, activism in action. So to kind of create this deep understanding of the fact that we are the 100,000 people at Danone, part of the system, and that we can influence it. First, we made a move that was a pretty symbolic move, but that brought a lot of value in terms of connecting us all, whatever our status, whatever location, whatever role, is that we decided to make everyone at Danone a shareholder. We also wanted to avoid having, the workers on one side, the shareholders on the other side. We're on a B Corp journey, so obviously connecting shareholders, stakeholders, communities is something which is becoming more and more natural and ingrained in our plans. And we wanted our people to really have both sides, understand how the performance of the company is impacting our shareholders, understanding how internally our journey is also impacting how we create value. So we did that. And interestingly, 3 years down the line, we had our general meeting a few months ago, just before the summer, and our employees were able to vote as shareholders. And we decided to vote in favor of becoming the first listed entreprise à mission in France, in line with the Loi Pact. And that, in a way, for us was an important step, because as I was saying, even though for the past 15 years we've been operating with this dual project, now it's part of our DNA and it's part of our bylaws, and it's really a way to walk the talk. The second way to really connect deeply to the fact that you belong to a system and that you need to use the system for good, depending on what your convictions are, is learning. Learning is kind of an ongoing task if you want to enrich your critical thinking. You don't know what you don't know, and it's very hard to challenge, at least challenge in a powerful way, if you don't know what you're talking about and you have no idea deep down of what's right in your view. So transparency and access to data, including our internal audit data on some of our progress on our portfolios. So when I say learning, obviously I talk about both angles, the hard and the soft learning, the skills as well as basically information that helps me connect the dots and helps me make better decisions that I can then convey with my peers and that can then impact the system. That's kind of the first step. The second step, once we feel part of the system and we understand that we're going to have an impact, is to make sure you have the system to make it fit for this new way to entrust those people to create new futures. So we had to change a little bit the system to make sure that the voice of our people would not be on top of, because otherwise you create a system on top of the system, and it's very hard to make two systems work together, and actually it's the best way to make them apart eventually. So we had to hack the system, and we decided to basically find within the way decisions are being made at Danone, the key moments within the decision-making process to impact our planning, strategic planning, to impact our decision-making. So every year, throughout our strategic planning, we have different times during the year when we ask every year our people about where we need to improve, where we have been progressing, the key priorities we need to focus on, whether they want to be very active and volunteer to drive the transformation on the ground. And all these, for example, last year we had more than 90. Remember, we're 100,000, so you imagine the type of 8,000 volunteers raising their hands and saying, I want to drive change. You can trust me. I want to be part of this. And we've been organizing the discussion and the feedback with the framework, with basically company goals, 9 company goals that we've been building with the strategic team at Danone, as well as the experts on some topics, whether they're environmental, whether they're innovation, whether they're health, whether they're HR people, you know, kind of 9 goals. And if you want to go on our website, you can read all about it, but with a brand model, a trust model, a business model, so that all those 9 goals that are integrated fuel the SDGs, the UN SDGs. And this framework really helps us to move as a company together, where people can provide their feedback on one of those 9 goals, or the 9 if they want to, and to move and improve continuously in a very tangible and business angle, connected with the broader picture and the impact that we want to have. And then we shape and we challenge. So basically, once we have gathered based on the upskill, the learning, and people being able to speak up and having a culture which calls for sharing, and that removes any fear to challenge the system, where people have been sharing their voices, then obviously we don't want to lose the value behind all those voices. And we shape and we challenge through these amazing gifts. For me, every time we have those feedbacks, these are, you know, nuggets or gifts that can make us even better. So basically, anyone can become a local volunteer, have access to all the data, the voices that we gather through the consultation, the data that we gather through the audit as well, on the progress of our portfolios, the progress on our social, you know, commitments. We have a big, basically, system that tracks the journey we're on, the KPIs, and gives us an idea of how well or how poorly we're doing. And this transparency and inclusion is core. So that can be a challenge, obviously, for some people that are not used in our leadership team to open the safe box and kind of give it all on the table. But after 3 years, we start seeing less and less resistance. I think people understand that people want to improve, and we see things being smoother and smoother, so that people can impact plans locally and globally. And then the challenge session, it's positive challenge at every level. So locally, those local volunteers then make their recommendations, meet up with the leadership teams, and have discussions on, you know, based on the voices of their peers, what could be improved, what could be changed. It's not about doing more. Again, it's not about adding more projects, more initiatives. It's about tweaking day after day and year after year through this routine, how we're doing. Twice a year, we have something which helps as well fuel the system. We walk the talk, and we make sure we have meetings directly between local volunteers, 26 of them, so 2 per region within Danone, with our executive committee. That's one meeting, and the second meeting with our board of directors. So when we launched One Person, One Voice, One Share, we basically amended as well our board organization, board of directors, and we merged our CSR and our strategic committee, so that strategy and CSR were really kind of one combined approach, the same way our 9 goals are totally integrated. And so the 26 local volunteers meet directly twice a year with those 2 bodies. And here you're really talking about governance in a more traditional way. We make sure that we expose our highest governance body from a management standpoint or executive committee, from a more, I would say, shareholder standpoint with our board of directors, directly to our local volunteers. That's the best way to make sure that there is no lost in translation type of moment. That if X, let's say 3, 4, 5 regions within Danone have the same issues that they share with their leadership team and things haven't been improving, together they can say on behalf of those 4 or 5 regions, you know what, COMEX, you know what, board, this is not moving. And this is kind of the best way to make sure, in a positive way and in a very, I would say, like-minded way, that we don't lose time. And that's the main thing. Like, the world evolves so fast, we cannot be cozy. If we really are behind this journey, which is to serve the needs of the people in our markets, our patients, our consumers, we need to evolve as fast as their needs do. And therefore, by doing this, by challenging, we are actually doing our job. So, in a nutshell, and I'm so curious to have your questions and your thoughts and your own experiences. But companies have tremendous potential. Big companies have tremendous, even more potential, and we just need to be as extraordinary as our people, and that's why we anchor this program within our HR team, because this is more than anything a people-centric program that impacts the whole company, that impacts the way we do business and the way we operate. But there is so much more on the journey, and I'm sure 1 year down the line, if we connect again like this, I'll be able to tell you the second chapter of the story, because now we start thinking about how we could work differently, how we can even, have a deeper caring and impacting system. So all this and things that you discuss very much in your different meetings. But down the line, I think what really sticks with me is that our futures depend on the ability of each of us to find a way to make things better within companies, within the world, within our support communities and our peers. It's really about that. So again, big thank you for joining. And resilience is the name of the game. Let's be bold and continue progressing.
Thank you so much, Anne-Claire, for your insights. Perhaps to continue on what you just said, you told us that you want your organization and adaptation capacity to remain very local. How do you manage the potential divergence induced by these local cultures? Is it a potential divergence on that or not?
So actually, divergence is a good news. The reason why we've decided to remain very local is that we believe that the needs are different locally, and food especially. So if you just reflect on the way people eat and even their biological needs, depending on where they come from and how they've been raised and how their bodies react and their needs, it is very different. And therefore, the divergences, we never call them like that, but to answer your question, they actually mean that we're doing our job, that our formula or our ingredients and recipe in countries adjust to the needs from that specific country, that the packaging that we're developing with some partners locally, some coalitions actually fuel a larger packaging initiative that helps trying to do things better. And we're on a journey. We're not perfect by any means, but we don't believe in one size fits all at all. And that's where the value of our people is so great, because they are those local voices. So if our people call out the fact that we're not local enough, then that's the problem. If everybody thinks the same, then we really have an issue. So, but thanks for the question, Luc.
And just in complement, are you highly matricial or highly decentralized? I mean, the autonomy on the local level is pushed to the maximum, or do you keep some matricial organization?
So it's a mix, but I think what COVID has been showing us is that the more local and autonomous we get, the better off we are. and therefore, and I know we're not the only company that has experienced this. I think it goes back to what you were saying in the introduction, trust. We have amazing people on the ground that deal with the local realities. COVID, even though it's a human pandemic across the world, is very, very local in the way it's being treated and the different waves and the different measures, for example. And we've been seeing that when we empower locally the teams with some global coordination, but in the interest of the overall dynamic and giving some guarantees. And for example, at the beginning of the COVID, globally, we said very clearly that we would maintain the salaries, for example. We wanted to give a kind of a baseline to make sure local could then do what was right in line with the right values that we defend at Danone. So I think that's the name of the game, is finding the right balance between local and global, with global putting some frameworks together that define who we are and how we stand as a company, and then local having the power to make the right choices with its people at the center. And that's the right checks and balances. We don't want small kingdoms. That's, you know, from centuries ago. We want tribes, we want people connecting together, being able to challenge together behind a common purpose. And this is the power, I believe, of a company like Danone.
Thank you very much, Anne-Claire. I also wanted to ask a question about the B Corporation certification that you plan to obtain, which is one of the most demanding CSR certifications. So could you please tell us a bit more about this project?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So B Corp, yes, is a certification that basically recognizes the fact that companies need to change pretty profoundly the way they work and the way they interact inside and outside with their shareholders, with their stakeholders, with their communities, to create basically what B Corp calls a force for good. So that companies can be the change, and that by changing and having guidelines, policies, so there are actually a lot of norms and rules behind B Corp. It's, again, a certification exercise that calls for rules to be changed, and that has very much value. So we've decided to embark on that journey. Among the 9 goals that I was referring to, one of them is to be certified B Corp as a full company by 2025. We have already more than 30% of our turnover that is certified, including in the US, which is basically now the biggest B Corp in the world. And we would love people, other companies to beat us and be the biggest, because that's what B Corp is all about. It's really a movement. When we're talking about a movement, B Corp is. But yes, it calls for, and once you're certified, you need to recertify every other year. So it's really not a tick the box exercise by any means. And it impacts very much your value chain, downstream, upstream. So it's not only about having your people strategy and your employee system being revamped. It's not only about having your volunteering and in the US sometimes your philanthropy strategy being revisited. It's really about doing better on every level. And so that's the journey we're on. And interestingly, for the business units that have become certified, you can really see how the discussion and the role of the people has actually shifted. Because B Corp, before anything else, is a transparency exercise. You need to see whether you're getting those points. Basically, you need 80 points to be certified, and that's open to anyone. So that's really part of the upskill and transparency and information sharing. From a very specific angle, but yeah, that's an exciting one we're on, and that definitely helps the overall dynamic and systems I was talking about.
That is really impressive, and yeah, it goes along what you were saying. We need to adapt and to evolve and make the change. So I think that is in line with what the B Corp is about. So we had several questions in the chat. So we have one from Hope Friedman. Maybe you can unmute yourself to ask your question directly to Anne-Claire.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Hope.
Hi, nice to see you. Bonjour. I was just curious, looking back, was there a significant obstacle that was surprising? And then how did the organization move past this hurdle?
Yeah, thanks, Hope. So for sure, I mean, I was reflecting actually with our team this morning about the fact that year 3, some things now start getting a little bit easier than they were the first 2 years. First, and it's very basic, but that's what happens when you change a system. People needed to understand how the system would work. Well, actually, people would connect to the decision making when the fact that this wasn't kind of a one-off exercise about getting collective intelligence for the sake of putting one strategy together. This is not it. This is really about ongoing involvement of our people. So getting that concept took a little bit of time for people to really understand, especially in a company like ours that launched a lot of stuff and sometimes disappear down the line, to say that this would stick. This was becoming part of who we are and how we would operate. So that wasn't a surprise, but obviously this was one of the biggest challenges, to anchor it within the system and avoid creating a system next to the existing one. The second one that was challenging as well is to make sure people understood how important it is to invest your time and your energy in terms of opening up your eyes and understanding better what is at stake. So I think more and more, and I talk for myself, but I think it's a society thing, you feel like now you're very comfortable because of social media, because of many things, to speak up and share your thoughts and feelings. But if you're talking about impacting a system and really creating a systemic impact, you want the people to have as much as they can under the belt, so that when they speak up, yes, they may share their feelings. That's great. We want that. That's what engagement is all about. But it needs to be rooted into some of the stuff that you've been learning about, so that you can actually make up your mind. And so we've been embarking on a journey of upskill and learning on One Planet, One Health topics. And one way to actually overcome that obstacle and make sure that learning was really understood as a critical piece of what we were trying to build was to build a partnership with the UN, so with the education arm of the UN, UNITAR. And together we built the first One Planet, One Health certification. So do it free, whether you're within the company, but it's also available to anyone outside on their website. And for 2 hours in learning modules of 15 minutes, you learn about key topics in a very practical and simple way, again, with the goal to make sure everybody has some common knowledge about what is climate change, what is the impact of packaging in our lives, and why is plastic both a bad and sometimes a good thing, but what is the balance, and therefore how can we do better? How do you read a label? How do you make up your mind about, actually, do you want to buy a B Corp product more than a product which may have no certification? So all that has been really important. We're now at more than 20,000 people that have been certified within Danone. So that's 40,000 learning hours just on planet and health. And what people tell us more than the numbers is that this has really helped them to impact their own choices personally, with their families and their friends and their communities, but also to deep dive on what really is at stake for them more personally, so that they can actually ask more for Danone and really deep dive and get the information that we make available on topics that really resonate with them.
So if I well understand,
so
the process was not...
one way.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to bounce on what you said, and so the process of the B Corp certification is not bureaucratic.
No. No. You're going back to the previous one. Sorry, to the B Corp question, not Hope, the other question.
Yeah, because you told that so many people has been trained, so it's
that's with the UN. Yes, that's with the UN.
Okay.
So not part of B Corp. We also have now a training available to everyone to understand better what's behind B Corp. But what we've developed with the UN is really something around planet and health being interconnected. And it's not technical. It's actually something that even kids can do. It's really about having a better understanding as citizens of the world we live in, and the impact of the food and the drinks and our choices every day. So I would say it's really a way to challenge yourself and connect with what you've learned, with what you really do every day in your life. So it's very, very far from technical and dogmatic or bureaucratic. But Luc, I'm waiting for you to be certified, and then you give me the feedback. I would love to have yours.
Sure, I'll do that. Put that in my wish list, on my wish list.
Yes.
So we have some more questions from Stephanie Ray. So I will read them to you, Anne-Claire. What is the rate of change since the program started? And what is the ambition for speed of change in the future? What are the challenges slowing down change?
Yes. So in terms, so we have different KPIs, but in terms of making sure that people, so there are few important pieces. One is to make sure that people feel empowered to speak up and feel that their voices has an impact. So that we test and ask people as we're getting their feedback. We always test on whether they believe that they have the opportunity to challenge locally, and it's anonymous, whether they believe that their voices matters and that they can be who they want to be and bring the convictions to work every single day. So that's very important. That's about an inclusive culture and making sure, as Luc was saying, that our differences will make the difference. Well, if you erase your difference as you step in the office on the line, or you open up your Zoom for your meeting, obviously it's not going to work. We need to be as diverse as possible, to be as intelligent as possible. So that's one of the KPIs. The second one is very much kind of an impact one. Have our plans evolved? Obviously, I can be very happy and ready to speak up and feel that I'm a very inclusive environment, but I can be in an environment that doesn't drive action, that doesn't drive to impact, and therefore this is not moving. So we have every year, and we're doing it right now, what we call a walk the talk campaign, where we can basically compare what our people said to how our plans have evolved locally and globally. So that really, that's our impact KPI. We see whether we've been listening on everything, and by definition, we won't be listening to everything. We also need to make choices as a company. But for example, when we decided last year to invest 2 billion to accelerate our climate plans, this was based on a few triggers, including very much the fact that our people had told us that we were getting too slow on this topic and that we needed to push. And that's how the resource allocation was decided. So we really try to be as mindful and not make this a big monster. We want things to be practical. We want people to feel that they belong to something that resembles them. And we want people to feel that they are not losing their time. That if they speak and they share what they really believe in, it's going to have an impact one way or the other. So that's very much what we track.
If anybody has a question, you can just unmute your microphone and slide in and ask your question directly to Anne-Claire.
Hi, this is Axel Zimmer. I was just curious to know what is the active support that you're receiving from the executive committee on this transformation? I mean, what are they doing actively besides I'm sure they're saying go ahead. I presume that's the minimum, but beyond the go ahead and do it, what are they doing specifically?
Yes. So first, I must say that as we develop and launch One Person, One Voice, One Chair as part of our announcement or vision, One Planet, One Health, this was all very intertwined, and the full exec committee was behind this launch of this new vision, One Planet, One Health strategic vision. So it was from the beginning anchored as something that was a way to transform our company. So I would say from an executive committee standpoint, the barrier was not much around that point, maybe more on the leadership teams locally that hadn't been part of the One Planet, One Health building. And therefore for them, it was a little bit more less clear, I would say. The executive committee on its side obviously had a lot of support to help the local teams and the general managers understand the value behind this. the fact that it was okay as a leader, and I'm talking the GMs, not to have all the solutions, that things are moving so fast that they needed to think a little bit more widely by listening to their people and by connecting more externally, and that's where B Corp is also super helpful. And last but not least, every year when we do our kind of strategic review, our executive committee for 1 week roughly meets and reviews the strategy and decides what should be in, what should not be in, and the allocation that they need to make in terms of resources. And so since we've launched this, they've decided, or they've agreed to actually put as part of this strategy week the voices of the people at the center, so that as they reflect as an exec committee and they make choices, they always have in mirror what the people said, and they can be true or decide that this is not for now and be ready to explain why. But they've been courageous in the way to open their eyes, because they know that our people in a way reflect the consumers we serve. So doing a strategy by just pretending problems don't exist is definitely not the way to win. So I would say they've been very very open-minded, very resilient in the way, and they're very proud. I mean, at Danone, we have a very strong engagement rate. We know that our culture drives engagement. We have personalities that want to go the extra mile. This is just the way we are. Our exec committees are the same type, if I may say so. And therefore, seeing this drive and this energy fueling within the company, as a leader, it's very hard not to be engaged yourself. So I think our people themselves helped everyone that may be more traditional in their way of thinking, more on the more higher stages, to say, okay, well, if it seems like this is actually pretty cool, let's try it out. So I think the best help were the people that decided to go on the journey. Thanks for the question, Axel.
Perhaps one or two last question. Please unmute and ask your question directly. Don't be shy. Stephanie, you had a question. I know that. I read it in the chat. Okay, perhaps, Anne-Claire, if you have some words to conclude this fantastic session. And once again, thank you so much. It was really insightful. I let you the floor for that.
Yeah, no, big thank you to everyone. I will read on the chat all the stuff. I haven't really read it. I was looking at your faces. I think it's really about challenging each other. I think Luc and the team, every time I read one of your articles or I listen to one of your podcasts and stuff, it makes me reflect and think. So I think let's just be kind to ourselves, realize that no one has the perfect recipe, and even if we had, it wouldn't be the perfect recipe tomorrow anymore. So let's be, supportive and kind. And I'm really glad that a company like Danone can, in its own way, bring a few experiments to the table and inspire others. And I'm very happy to connect with any of you if you want to know more about some specific about the program, and also thanking the team for their engagement. If you're talking about engaged people, I'm super proud of the people I work with. So big thank you to everyone in our HR teams.
Thank you, Anne-Claire. So I understand why Stephanie couldn't ask her question. She has a problem with the use of the audio. So I will ask her question so that she can sleep well at night. Have you changed anything in leaders' performance assessment and career management?
So we have started assessing people in taking into account the overall dynamic I was referring. But this is why you need to invite me 1 year down the line. I think I'll have more to share on this.
I'll do that for sure. I note it in my agenda. We have performing tools today, so I will remind that. Thank you very much. Just to give you an update of the next session, because as you know, we have a weekly meeting. So next sessions are the following, and you can find all the program on the nextgenenterprise.com, the website of the summit, and also of our virtual session. So September 24th from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. CET. With transition, we have a virtual Lego serious play. It will be great. It's a paying session because we send you some material, but it's fantastic. You should try this experience if you don't do that before. It's with Melanie Wilder. She's a computer scientist with many years of experience in IT business and product owner projects. So as you noticed, probably we have 4 women speakers in a row in September. That's a great month, and we hope we will continue that way in October. Finger crossed. In September 29, from 5 to 6 regular hour CET, why reinventing organization is not just about reinventing structures and processes. It will also be in English. It's a full month in English. Sorry for the French, but that's for September. So Lisa Gill is the founder of Reimaginer, an organizational self-management coaching company. She helped teams and leaders achieve their goal by unlocking the human skills you need in order to work in a more collaborative and self-managing ways. And she's the co-author of The Moose Heads on the Table, a book about self-managing organization. What a great program. Thank you, everyone. I think we can put some music, and we are quite on time. It was really a fantastic session. Congratulations, Anne-Claire. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.